Well, welcome to our weekly webinar. My name is Patrick Halstead, and I'm presenting today. I want to apologize in advance for the font color. Couldn't get the font color to work with the background of our image today for the webinar. But today we're talking about how to automate a form with rules. And specifically, we're talking about a type of form that some of you may not have used before, a network form. First off, though, I want to do a quick poll and see what version of InfoPath you're using. So we're going to quickly send you a question, two questions here. The first question is, which version of InfoPath are you using? And we'll give you a few seconds here to fill this out. Looks like 2010 is in the lead, 2013 a little bit behind there, nobody using 2007. 74% voted. We'll give you a couple more seconds there, and we'll close it out. The next, so 76% 2010 and 24% 2013. Next question then, this one should be pretty obvious, but browser versus filler. And this is relevant because today we're talking about the filler mainly, but it's really kind of an interesting technique. And it looks like we've got about 62% of you using the browser. Now it's 53%. Now it's 50-50. So we're in a dead heat here. 74% have voted, and it looks like the browser is in the lead by a few percentage points, 56% versus 44%. Well, that's good to see because, like I just mentioned, today we're talking about a category of form that is a network form. So it's not a browser form, it's a filler form. And I just want to call that out in advance. I know we've got quite a few people in the webinar today, and really glad you joined. So there are different categories for forms. I talk about email forms in our training. We talk about network forms, which can also be printed. I talk about SharePoint list forms, a very common form that we used in 2010, 2013 to create simple forms, 20 to 40 fields. And then we have the sort of the stock default library form. We also have more advanced kinds of forms, like the ones that connect to web services or get installed on your form or installed on your computer. But today we're talking about this network share form, and specifically, what is this? Well, we're doing a network form because, and I'll tell you why in a second, but what it is it's an InfoPath form with Outlook that you open, fill out, you submit it, it saves it to the network share, it emails the next person. The email then contains a link to open the form, and anytime that subsequently, if they submit it or if it's approved, it moves the form to a separate folder, and the links continue to open. So why do we really care about this? Well, it's low cost. You can take my sample I'm going to give you today, and within an hour you can deploy it on your network share or less. It's very simple. We've got a sample form for you that has Q-rules pre-baked in it. It'll work for everyone that has the filler. You do have to have Outlook and InfoPath clients. It will work on 2007 and 2010 and 2013. No SharePoints required. And the other benefit is that for many organizations today, the cloud isn't good enough because of compliance. It's a security issue, HIPAA compliance, kinds of government regulations. If you're just worried about hackers getting your data. So this solution is kind of an answer to that because it allows you to use your network share, your domain, your private logon, and you don't have to use third-party storage. So that's another benefit of our solution today, what we're talking about. So the way you do it, and I'm going to walk through this in a minute, but the way you do it is you take the sample form, and you're going to update the emails and the drop-downs, and then you'll update the network share because I'm going to use a network share called N. And then you sign and you save the form to that location. So the form's actually full trust, and I'll show you how that works in a second. It's easy to do though, and everyone can use it. Okay, so let's do the demo. So I have this form in the designer. You can see I'm running 2010, like most of you, and it's called the sales packet form. So this is a very simple form. It's got about 20 fields, actually less than 20 fields. It's got a repeating section. You can see here that I have a button at the bottom of the form. We have thanks to Mel Balsamo, one of our form designers, we've done a very quick what we call a beauty spa on the form to make it look more decent. So we've added a header with the help section. Doesn't have any help yet, but this is a best practice. We've added a little bit of a footer with some copyright information, some versioning, and so forth. Of course, you can use this form. We're not saying you can't use the form. You can use the form, and you can take out our logo, and you can use it just as is. So it's a pretty simple form, just one view. And you can see here that I've got rules on this button. So if you look at the far right pane, I've got all these rules. I'm going to walk through these in a second. But first, I want to show you how the form works. So we have a network share. And for those of you who remember DOS, in the command shell, you can see network shares by using netuse, and that's how you would set them up. Of course, your admins can set up a global network share for people in your organization. Here, what I've done is I've set up a network share that points to this Autonomy 3 Autonomy Systems Local Product Package Webinar Package 2015-0508 or 0528. So that is where my network share is, and you can see here that I'm connected to that in my Windows Explorer. Just Windows 7 here. So what you would do then is you would send out a link and say, hey, double click on the form here. And then your colleagues would just go to the share and they would double click the sample. Now the first time this opens, they'll get a prompt saying, are you sure you want to open this? And then it will open like you just saw, and it will not present a prompt. So it's a full trust form, so that you're going to get that prompt. Do you trust this form? And it's pretty simple. And you can say, yes, I trust the form. And then you fill it out. So let's do that. Let's fill this out. This is an order form. So we're going to talk about who is going to make an order. Kevin Bacon was in town. Last night, actually. He's probably still in town. And he was at the film festival in Seattle. And so we're going to sell something to Kevin Bacon here. 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, right? And the zip code for Kevin, we don't know, but we're just going to type in something here. And he's in Seattle, and that is Seattle. And this is just, like I said, sample form, nothing fancy here. So Kevin's going to buy 3 of our newfangled widgets, and we'll just whatever, just typing in when he ordered the widgets, when they're being delivered, when the parts came in, set up estimate. And he's going to pay using AG Direct. Okay, this is a form we modified from a customer last week who we helped, and we ended up taking his form and helping him do this solutions. And it's a very cool solution. That's why I'm showing it to you today. So first off, we're going to ask the territory manager to approve it. So when I click on submit, what's going to happen is it's going to save the form to that network share, and then it's going to pop up email, and it's going to send email to the emails I've configured. Now for this demo, I've configured a couple different aliases, our support alias and our webinars alias, just so you can get an idea of how this works. Okay, so now that email went out, and if I go back to the share, you'll see that that form was saved. That's cool. And if I open up my email, you'll see that here's the email I got, and it's got the view of the form. It's got a link to open the form. Oh, that's cool. And you can see there's the form. It looks pretty good. I can read the data. I can open the form using this link. And of course, I'm in Outlook, so it's going to give me that security warning. No big deal. I'll take it. And now I'm playing a role of the next person in line. So the person who's going to review this, the territory manager. So let's see. For pre-delivery information, please ring the bell. Whatever, silly text here that we're adding. And the next step is we're going to deliver it. So the equipment has been delivered to Kevin. So now when I click submit, what it's going to do is there's a little different logic. So that just to show you workflow using rules, what I've done is I've configured the form to move the form from one location to another when it's delivered. And if we go back to our share, you can see that the form has disappeared. But underneath delivered, I've got the Kevin Bacon form along with a bunch of other samples I've been using for testing. And of course, I can double click it from here and open the form again. You can see that the changes that we took, these changes are in the form. Also, I got an email. I go to my email folder here, and we're going to see there's the first email that came in, and then if actually this is the second email going to my webinars alias, and here you can see that this is the second email that came through with the text that was updated, and I can click on that link and open it from email. So that's cool, right? It's cool that I can use InfoPath and rules to do a simple workflow with email and have the form move to a network share, save it to network share, and move to a different folder, all without using SharePoint. No SharePoint required. And that's, we're going to show you how I did that in a second. And I'm going to go back to the designer. Any questions, please go ahead and ask them. I'm going to answer questions at the end of this, this brief webinar here. About 5 minutes left, I think. So let's see what I want to do. I want to show you the form in the designer. Okay, so here's the designer again. Now, how do we do all that? Well, it's pretty simple. Pretty much everything is running on this submit button. You can see that on the right, underneath the formatting rules, we are disabling the button if no action has been selected or if we're in email mode. So when we switch into email mode, which is right before we send the form, we set this mode equal to email. And the mode is in the main data source. You can see here at the bottom, I've got this thing called mode. I'm setting mode equal to email at the very end, right before we actually send the email. In fact, there's the rule right there. So here's a rule on the right that actually sets that mode equal to email. Now, why am I doing that? Well, I've got this link at the top of the form in a section, and I'm only showing the link if we're in email mode. So if it's not email, we hide the section. The purpose of this is that when the mode is set to email, it shows the link, and then the link will show up in the email that I send, and they can click on the link. The link is actually computed. So you can see here, I've got the form URL and I've got the fully qualified URL. This actually points to that location. So if I right-click the link, this is simply a hyperlink, and it's pointing to that value, the fully qualified form URL, in my main data source. And that value is getting set when I submit the form. So if the form URL is blank, that's the first rule, it's going to set that form URL equal to the name of the form. I've got two rules here, two kinds of rules. I'm setting the name of the form to be the branch dash the customer name dash the model.xml. So these are all fields in my form, branch, customer name, and model. So I set the name of the form to that, and then I set the default location, the default URL equal to that end drive, followed by the name of the form, right? Now, if the form is delivered, I'm going to go one level deeper. I'm going to set equal to the end drive / delivered folder, and then the form URL. So there's just two very simple workflow. We just default, we set it to the end drive. Otherwise, we're going to save the form to the n / delivered, n / delivered. And that's what we do next, is we save it. Now, to save the form, we're using one of our QRules commands. So the QRules is baked into the form. You don't need QRules to run this sample. But you can see here we're using that save command. And that's why we need to be full trust, because the save command only works if the form is full trust. And it's saving it to that path with the form URL. And if the equipment is delivered, we're saving it to the end delivered path. And if the equipment is delivered, we're also going to delete it from the previous location. And then we have some error handling. If there's an error saving, we pop up a message. If there's an error deleting the form after we move it, we pop up a message. Then we set the mode, and then we basically just send the email, depending on which rule is set, which action is set. If we're going to the territory manager, we submit using it. We've got 4 data connections, I think. 1 data connection for each department. You've got the territory manager, the parts ordered, order submitted, and then I think the delivered. Those are the 4 at the very bottom there. So we could do this all with 1 email data connection, but the way the form works right now is using 4. And then finally we close the form. So that's it, right? So that's how you can actually write workflow using InfoPath, and pretty simple stuff. So we're using those 3 QRules commands. The first one is to save to a new path. The second one is to resave it to that path. When we save it to the new folder, we use save to path again, and we delete it. So just those 3 commands. Let me show you a trick with QRules. If you've got QRules, if you're wondering what commands you're using in QRules, you can go to the QRules secondary data source here, right-click the command node, and choose Rule Inspector. And that's going to show you all of the different commands here on the right. Here we have the save to path, and delete file. So that's it. I'm here to answer any questions you have. Also want to point out that if you answer the 4 questions in the survey, we'll send you the sample form and the slide deck, and you can do it yourself. We are taping this, and it will be on live on YouTube at the end of the day. We do have 4 upcoming webinars next week, following week, then we skip a week, and then we got 2 more coming for you. So we really appreciate you showing up in these webinars, and I'm here to answer any questions you have. Looks like there's no questions today. Well, hopefully you can still hear me okay. It looks like we had a good turnout. We got 1 question. Thank you. Justin's got a question. So Justin's question is, if we do have QRules with the current version, do you have an area on your website you recommend looking for more details on how to make the rules work? I would actually take the sample that you get as part of the webinar today, and I would take a look at those rules. This is actually, there's some new commands here. We are actually using a command. I actually had Hillary add a new command for this scenario. So that's why we're calling it 7.2. So if you have QRules today, you don't have the save command. You have save to path and delete file. Save is important because we need to resave it over an existing form, and the save to path doesn't do that. So we had to add that command, and we had to modify. There was a bug in delete file where if you had opened the form from a location and you tried to delete it, it was still locked. So we had to fix that. So there's two minor changes in QRules that are coming. 7.2 we hope to be released this summer. We can give you the beta version if you need it. You can use it as part of this solution. It's baked into the form. If you want to inject it into your form and do the same thing, just send email to support, and we'll do that, support@qdabra.com, and we'll send you the new injector, assuming that you already have a license. And but yeah, great question, Justin. So I would just go ahead and take a look at the rules in this sample here, and you can basically just copy these rules into your form, send email to support, get the latest version of QRules, and then inject it in your form. For most of you, you can just take this form, you can delete the view, and you can delete the everything, and just basically use the QRules that's baked into it, and you don't need to have the injector. So hopefully that answered your question. Let's see, Mark's got a question. Do the save rules trap for illegal characters in the file name? That's a great question. We have tested this with apostrophes and strange characters, but it does not trap for characters that cannot be used. And I'm guessing that there would be some error that would come up, but I haven't actually tested that. So that's a great question. The key thing is the form designer has to be smart about it, because the form designer has control of where it's getting saved, right? So now, obviously, if you've got if you're worried about some strange characters in the form URL because they've typed in a weird customer name, you can use the QRules encode command to remove those. And we're not doing that as part of this solution, but you could certainly, when we create that form URL here at the very top, you could use the QRules encode command to remove strange characters or encode them into the name. So that would be the answer there. And if you've got QRules, you just want to open up the command overview, and there should be an encode command. Let's just take a quick look here, because I just don't want to tell you something that's a lie. So we have, do we have an encode command? Let's see here. We have, yes, we have encode. So you'll want to use that encode command when you're creating that URL if you think that they're going to type in something strange in the customer name that would not result in a proper file name. But for the actual URL, that's actually, the designer codes that into the form, so the location. Great questions. Any other questions for me today? I want to thank you all again for joining. Like I said, it's a very short survey. It's just 4 questions. We really appreciate your time and look forward to presenting to you again next week. Have a wonderful day.